It was like literally just boxes of mail that they'd brought with them. And I'm like, all right, well, this is trash. So just throwing that all in the dumpster. It was like 3 months. And I think it was like a $60,000 or $70,000 profit just because nobody else wanted to take the time to take the trash out.
What's up, everyone? I'm Nick Campo, and this is Tom O'Neill, a special guest in our Building Wealth Through Real Estate podcast that we're doing every Tuesday. Moving forward, we will have a different guest who has built wealth through real estate, who can talk to us about investing. We are the Loan Guys Podcast. We are super happy that you're here. Before we get started, go ahead and bang the red subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and go follow us on all of our social media. We're MBI Financial Group on everything. Tom, super pumped to have you. First guest ever on the Loan Guys Podcast, so welcome.
It's an honor. Thanks, Nick. I'm happy to be here.
So a couple of things, when I was doing some research on you, a couple of things that I noticed is, one, you're at eXp Realty, which I already knew.
Yep.
You're a realtor.
Yep.
You flip houses. You own mobile home parks. I thought it was pretty cool that you went to Georgia Tech.
Yep.
I have a buddy who went to Georgia Tech. He's actually the attorney for our company. Yeah, Georgia Tech. Hell yeah, man. Now, how did you go from Georgia Tech to real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really a recovering engineer is really what it comes down to. So graduated from Tech with a mechanical engineering degree. I did a dual major for a little while in nuclear and mechanical, and then I had been in college for 6 years, and I was like, this has been long enough. I don't need 2 degrees. I can do the same thing with one. So graduated, got a job with an oil and gas engineering construction company.
Nice.
Did that for 9 years, was traveling around the U.S. I spent 7 months down in Panama and Central America, 2.5 years up in northern Alberta, Canada, just bouncing around from project to project. And while I was doing that, I was buying some rental properties in Charlotte.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I'm originally from New York, and my family had relocated while I was in college to the Charlotte area. So that kind of became home, and
that's really cool.
Yeah, it worked out well.
What part of New York?
I grew up in Orange County, which is like an hour northwest of New York City.
Okay, so I grew up in Montgomery County, which is about 2.5 hours west-ish of New York City. Okay. And my senior year of college, my parents relocated to Charlotte as well, which is really weird. I did not know.
It's kind of weird, yeah.
So it happened to
we
both
didn't
of us.
plan that.
No. No, we didn't even know each other before I started this business.
But yeah, so I mean, it worked out well because I kind of had a de facto property manager in the area, because I'm traveling around, and, my parents were here. So anytime something would break, I'd call my dad and be like, hey, can you go look at this? And he would, of course. He's great about that. He's always been, he's a retired firefighter, but he'd always done carpentry on the side.
Nice.
So yeah, when I'm flipping houses, I'm always like, Dad, I need you to come fix this for me. How do I fix this? What do I do here? So great resource for sure. So yeah, I mean, I finished up a project in Philly, and they wanted me to relocate to Houston permanently. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to quit. And my boss is like, what do you mean you're going to quit? He's like, how? Because he didn't know I was buying rental properties.
Right.
So I had my rental property income, which wasn't it's not astronomical, but I single guy, I didn't have a lot of expenses. I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work.
Right.
How old was I? I guess I was 33, 32. I was like, I'll go home, live with my parents for a couple months, figure it out. And of course, my mom was ecstatic. She's always
Tom's home.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to pay for food, which was great, So I saved some money there and got back into Charlotte and started. I was like, all right, what am I going to do? I said, well, I'll get my real estate license because I want to keep investing and looking at rental properties and flips and things like that. You can
cut an expense that way too.
Exactly. And I don't have to have somebody bring me to the properties, right? That was the whole goal.
Right.
So I went to real estate school and I was like, all right, well, let me try to do this for other people too. Okay. So, I have a little bit, but most of my business is either friends and family or, other investors.
Gotcha. Try
to network with other investors and build it that way. So, and that's another thing that other agents try to do too. They're like, how do I work with investors? How do I work with investors? I'm like, well, you got to bring value. That's what investors are looking for, is value somewhere. So typically when I'm working with an investor, they're like, well, how do you get paid? Because, investors like to buy properties off market.
Right.
So I'm like, well, honestly, when they're buying off market, there's not really a good way for you to get paid. Like if you insert yourself as a buyer agent, you're just adding to their expense,
Right.
taking off their bottom line. So typically what I do is, and you're not really finding them the properties,
Right.
they're finding it themselves, you know? So typically what I do is if I have an investor that has an off market property, a lot of times what they'll do is send it to me and say, hey, what is this going to be worth after I fix it up?
Right.
You know, or what's the rent going to be, you know, and on the rental end, there's no way for me to make money, but I don't care. I'm just building,
Right.
building a relationship. When they're flipping it, a lot of times I'll work with them, figure out what it's worth. And then they'll reach back out to me when they're ready to sell and
Nice.
say, hey, let's list this property. And I'm like, awesome, you know, like sweet, you know, so it's not, there's no quick money being a realtor working with investors. It's the same thing as working with, you know, regular buyers.
Right.
So, you know, but then you do also stumble across every once in a while those potential flips that you want to do yourself.
Right.
Right. So I'm looking at a lot of the same properties and, you know, I guess I do have a little bit of a competitive advantage because I can pull the comps and,
Right.
you know, figure out what it's worth a little bit quicker, maybe not a lot quicker, and maybe not even better than, you know, your regular investor because I am very conservative and,
Right.
you know, when I'm giving somebody an after repair value. And a lot of times they're like, are you sure that's all it's worth? And I'm like, well, maybe a little bit more, you know, we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, let's see what the market does in the 3 months it takes you to get it finished. You know, the last, I guess 2020, 2021, it was like the worse you were at doing flips and the longer it took, the better off you were because the market was just exploding.
For the first
Right?
time ever. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there was and I tell you that too, because we were talking earlier and I was like, I could tell you every mistake that you could make and because I've done it.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't worry.
Yeah, you know, but we've had a couple flips where we were like, man, we totally messed this up. We took way too long, but it ended up better because just owning the property created appreciation.
Those appreciation from 2021 through even the beginning of 2023 was insane.
Yeah. I actually did a couple. Some of my best flips were ones that I didn't even do anything on the property. The best one I ever did was I bought it from a wholesaler. The people that lived there were hoarders. I took out, I think it was 2 40-yard dumpsters worth of trash.
Wow.
And
We know what that's like.
Oh yeah, I got to show you a property that
okay,
up in Kannapolis that I bought. Oh, dude,
I bet. But 2 40-yard dumpsters, and then I was like, I could fix it up. I'm like, if I spent the money to fix it up, it'd take this long. And I was like, why don't I just list it? And I you know, it was like a 3-month turnaround because I bought it. They stayed for a month. They moved out and I didn't realize how much stuff they were leaving. Like I guess they had originally moved to Charlotte from Michigan and then moved back to Michigan, but they didn't take any of their stuff with them. And like, when I'm going through it, there's all these boxes that say mail to go through. And it's like unopened mail.
Did you open the mail?
I did not open them.
That's a federal offense. I was going to
did
say,
not.
don't admit it on live. Tell me afterwards.
I threw it in the dumpster. It was like literally just boxes of mail that they brought with them. And I'm like, all right, well, this is trash, you know? So just throwing that all in the dumpster. And then it was like 3 months. And I think it was like a $60,000 or $70,000 profit.
Good for you.
Just because, like nobody else wanted to take the time to take the trash out or, you know, but I just, like I said, I couldn't believe how much trash they
So a couple of questions. One, when you left your engineering job, they wanted you to move to Houston, which I went to Houston for the Final Four last year. And I think Charlotte's way better, but Houston's cool too.
Yeah.
It's great barbecue, Truth Barbecue. Shout out to them. I'm a fat boy, so I like Texas style meat. But how many investment properties did you have at the time when you decided to make that move? And I guess the first question, that's the follow-up question.
Okay.
You mentioned your dad was able to basically help out when you were traveling Albuquerque and all the different areas you were going for engineering.
Yep.
Was he in real estate before, and was he super supportive regarding you getting into investment properties? Did he understand investment properties first and foremost?
Not really. So, supportive, yes, 100%. And my mom as well. Like my grandfather had always had rental properties in New York. So they kind of knew the game. And, you know, when I was buying the first one, my mom was like, you know, your grandfather used to have rental properties. My dad just knew the construction end of it, you know,
Gotcha.
the repairs. So, he did a lot of, like in the fire department in New York, they basically work 2 24-hour shifts a week. And then they have, you know, it's usually 24 on, 24 off, 24 on. and then 4 days off,
Right.
or 3 days
Yeah.
off, and it kind of rotates. So because of the way that their schedule is set up, everyone that's a firefighter has another job.
Mhm.
Right. So he was doing renovations around town that we lived in. He'd do basement renovations, kitchens, things like that. So when he retired from the fire department, they moved down here. He started working for a remodeling company full
Right.
time.
Right.
So, it was like he was doing a lot of high end bathroom and kitchen stuff in Charlotte. Like he actually, his company won like Kitchen of the Year a couple times for the Cody Awards, which is like Contractor of
Right.
the Year. 1 year he won like Superintendent of the Year. He didn't even go to like the award show. Like his boss was like, "Come on, you got to come." He's like, "No, I'm not going. I'm not going." He like won the award. So
That's so funny.
yeah. So he'd been working there, and then when COVID started, they were like, he was getting ready to retire from them anyway. So he ended up like when COVID started and they got the PPP loans, they were like, "Well, we know you're going to retire in May." They're like, "How about we just pay you through May and you don't have to come in for the next 6 weeks?" And he was like, "All right." So now he's got a lot more free time.
So he was supportive, and he knew construction. But you said your grandfather had been he had some rental properties, and your mom told you that. Was there anybody who was like, "Tom, you're leaving your engineering job that you're making probably great money at? Are you crazy? Let me tell you, let me tell you about your grandfather's stories of tenants.
Yeah,
let me do that. Did anyone do that to you?
Especially in New York, it's like
Right.
if you get it because my cousin in New York had rental properties too, and I remember my mom telling me that she's like, "Your cousin Robert's got this tenant that hasn't paid rent in like 18 months and he can't get them out." And I'm like, "Oh boy, that doesn't sound like fun."
New York's not a landlord friendly state.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Squatters.
not. Yeah. So, and it was like
California's dealing with that a little bit now too.
the worst part was with that tenant, like the reason why they kept letting her stay was because they're like, "You're not repairing the property." And he's like, "Well, she won't let me in to repair it. So like, I want to repair it and get it up to," because I think it was Section 8. He's like, "I want to get it up to Section 8 standards. So Section 8 will pay me the rent, but she won't let me inside to make the repairs." So it was like a double-edged sword
Right.
where he couldn't get her out for not paying but she couldn't pay because she wouldn't let him in to make the repairs. So it was a whole mess. I don't even know how it ended up. I don't even remember, but
So you heard that story prior to, and
yeah, and I still was like, "Oh yeah, this sounds like a good idea."
Well, don't worry, Tom. I'm in the same boat you're in, dude. I was in the chemical industry for 14 years.
Okay.
are you sure that's it?
Yeah,
You're kind of old.
Yeah, I just look old. Good thing they can't see what I'm giving you guys. But no, man, and I kind of got guys like, "Hey, man, what are you going into?" I was like, "Oh, I'm going into the mortgage industry," and it's like, "You're doing what?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got a huge financial background y'all never knew about for while I was in the chemical world, and this was my grand plan all along was to work in the chemical world and then come into mortgage." Said no one ever.
Yep.
But it has been a blast. I think it's been a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, well, I don't know what you know about the chemical industry right now, but it's limping along.
Okay.
Got a lot of friends in the industry, still keep up with it. It's, I enjoyed the chemical world, all the places that I worked. It was awesome, but I wanted to come somewhere where I can make it mine, put a stamp on things, help people, help people achieve their goals in life. And that's,
Absolutely.
that's real estate. So
Yeah.
it's been a blast, and glad to have you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But yeah, kind of the trigger for me was like, I was early 30s and it just drove me crazy that like there's a couple things. It was like, all right, they'd be like, "We need you to do this," because I wasn't even doing engineering when I finally left. I was doing subcontract management. So like negotiating subcontracts, approving change orders, approving invoices, helping them get paid. And just
Basically you were training for your job now.
more or less, right? Yeah, like with a lot bigger dollar number.
Absolutely.
Got into real estate. I'm like, oh, $100,000. I have $200,000 signing authority on change orders, and I was the low man on the totem pole. It's like, this is easy. But no, so like it drove me crazy that I was tied to the desk for that job. So I was 50 hours a week. But like if I finished all my work, I just had to like sit there, and I would manage like 6 subcontractors, and there was a gentleman who'd been with the company for 30 years who was managing 1, and he probably made 3 times as much as I did, and I was doing 3 times as much work as he was. So it drove me crazy. I just got kind of burnt out on it. I was like,
And
I
it
gotta
was
do something
salary
different.
based as well. Correct?
Salary,
so
yeah,
capped
so-
a little bit.
Yep. It didn't really matter. So
So when you left, how many rental properties did you have?
I had 4. I had 4 at that point. I bought my first one in 2010, my second one in 2012, and then I bought 2 in 2016. About 3. Well, one was about 6 months before I left, and the other one was about 3 months before I finally left that job.
So the first one,
Mhm.
it's here in Charlotte. How much did you pay for it?
105,000.
And how much was the mortgage on it?
No, that one was mortgage, HOA, all in PITINA association, PITIA
Principal, interest, taxes, insurance,
association.
association dues. Just for everybody, pity ya.
Sorry,
It's
yeah.
okay.
That all in on that, I think I was about $650 a month.
$650 a month.
Yep. And when I first bought it, it was renting for $850.
Oh, cash flow. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, from the first one. And that one I bought, I paid $105 and the seller paid $5,000 closing costs.
You never forget the first one, dude.
No, never. I mean, I can even remember my mom calling me and being like, the tenant locked himself out and tried to call me at 3:00 in the morning, and I didn't pick up the phone, and he broke the window in the kitchen and climbed through the kitchen window. Like, I remember that conversation too. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, what happened?
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not having to manage these things. But yeah. And then, so that one, that was 2010, and it just kind of, it was, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Let me see if I can do this again. So 2012, and I'd always been looking, just seeing what's available. 2012, I reached back out to the same realtor I'd worked with, and I was like, I'm looking for another. I was doing townhouses.
Right.
You didn't have to worry about the maintenance.
Right,
You didn't have
right.
to worry about outside, or not the. I shouldn't say the maintenance. You don't have to worry about cutting the grass. You don't have to worry about the roof, the siding, everything inside you do got to worry about.
Right.
You got to maintain all that.
But you also have insurances as well
Yep.
that I'm sure covered the broken window.
No, he paid for that. I mean,
Oh,
that
he
was,
did?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. He
okay.
definitely.
He just wanted in.
Yeah, it was 3:00 in the morning.
Was he
and-
drinking? Was he out drinking?
I don't know. Maybe.
judgment.
Yeah.
No judgment. Been there, done that. But
Yeah. So, but yeah, no. So the next one, it was funny because I was looking for townhouses, and my agent was like, "Hey, there's this foreclosure that this one was in Steel Creek, so Southwest Charlotte." She's like, nobody's been looking at it. It's been on the market for a while, and I think it's because they have it listed as a single family, but it's actually a townhouse. So that one, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, about 1,500 square feet, 1-car garage. I paid $80,000 for that in 2012.
Wow.
And yeah, that one I remember because my mortgage was like $360 a month.
Jeez.
And then
What was the interest rates?
that one was probably like in the 5s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the 5s.
That's when I started in the mortgage industry. It was 2011, 2012. And
Yeah.
we were like 5.85%. We started in like 6.25. And then when it dropped down to the 5.85%,
Mhm.
I was at, which is now Rocket Mortgage, but Quicken Loans, working with mortgage brokers like ourselves. So
Yep.
that's their wholesale channel that's based out of Charlotte.
Okay.
They brought a beer cart around because it dropped into the 5s. Refinance, boom! And so I remember that time period. That's a great payment though. How much?
Yeah.
So what was your cash flow on that?
That one was, all in, again, PITIA was, I think, around the same for that one because with taxes and insurance, yeah, it was like $600 a month.
Nice.
That one was renting for $900 when I first bought it.
so that's 2 investment properties getting about $800 cash flow a month.
Yeah, yeah. So then, 2016, when before I left, I was kind of like, I'm going to leave soon, but I wasn't 100% sure. So I got really serious about looking, I was like, okay. And now I know this as a realtor, they don't actually send you the emails every morning. It's an automated thing. The new stuff on the market just
Right.
automatically gets blasted out. I'm like, wow, my realtor, she's up every morning at 6:30.
She's on point, buddy.
She's on it,
She's crushing.
Yeah, so I'd get to work at 6 and I'd be waiting for that email to come in with what came on the market. And I built this spreadsheet where I could put a one line of every property that came up, with purchase price, the HOA dues, the insurance, what I thought the insurance would be, the taxes, I could pull the taxes up. And I just did an analysis, a quick analysis of every property. And I was looking primarily in Southwest Charlotte. So it got to the point where like I knew what the rent was in every neighborhood. So I'd be like, oh, that's Lionsgate. Rent there is $1,000, you know, so I'd put it in. And at the end of the week, you know, this was 2016.
Oh my,
the market,
how have things changed?
yeah, the market wasn't as crazy
Yeah.
as it is now. So yeah, at the end of the week, I'd send my mom and my realtor a list of like my top 3. And I'd be like, hey, go take a look at these 3. Let me know, you know, which one looks the best, which one's not going to take me the most work to get rent ready. So that's how I ended up with the last 2 was, you know, I kind of just kept doing analysis and picked the last 2. And, you know, I was always looking for cash flow. I was always looking for a minimum of, at that point, a minimum of 15% cash on cash return. So looking at my down payment, my closing costs, and then, you know, factoring in 15% annually. Right. So if I was putting $10,000 down, I wanted to make $1,500 a year cash flow on it. Obviously, the numbers are a little bigger,
Right.
but it's just easier math. So yeah, that was my goal, and that was like my minimum qualification. So if I could get something better than that, I would look at it too. And I realized, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, let me buy something that needs work. I can get it a little bit cheaper." I is the complete opposite, because I was like, if I can get something that's already fixed, like say I buy a $100,000 property that needs $20,000 worth of work. I got to put 20% down, my $20,000, but then I got to put that $20,000 in. So I'm in for 40 now. Right. But if I can buy that same property for $130,000, yes, I paid an extra $10,000, but because I'm only putting 20% of the 130, I'm putting 26 in. Right. So my outlay of cash is less, but my return on investment is higher because, you know, it's just a percentage of what I've invested. So, you know, I got away from trying to buy the properties that needed to be fixed up that everybody else was going for. And I was like, I want stuff that's already fixed.
Well, you were remote too. You weren't here.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tougher to buy a property that needs work if you're not there. And I know your dad was overseeing it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you don't want to give him a full-time job.
Exactly.
Especially as he was coming to retirement age. So you mentioned the spreadsheet. And one of the things I tell every investor that we work with, it's like, hey, listen, you need to run the numbers.
Yeah.
I can give you what the cost is going to be. So they'll come to us and we do a comprehensive real estate plan for them. And I'll break down multiple different ways to structure a mortgage. And it shows their PITIA, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, association dues. And it breaks that all out for them. But they have to run the numbers themselves and be comfortable with their cash on cash return, as you mentioned. So when you were creating your spreadsheet, a couple of things that really stick out to me in what you're saying, and as somebody who got into investment and is working on the, you know, the financial side of real estate and the mortgage side of things, and also investing ourselves, there's a lot more that goes into getting an investment property and making it successful. Well, one of the things I always say is, you know, you buy a good deal. Like you make your money on the purchase.
100%.
How did you know that, hey, I need this spreadsheet? Did you do a lot of research to figure out what type of spreadsheet you needed, what you wanted
Dude,
your
he
numbers to
graduated
be?
from Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Come on.
I understand. I understand, but like that's something that like engineer, extremely smart guy, but like, did you have an advisor or something along those lines?
Dude,
So
Tom's been doing a spreadsheet since he was like 2 or 3 years old. Guarantee it.
I wish that was the case. And it's funny because when I first got hired and I got into the office, and I'll get back to your question, but this is just a little anecdote.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I first got hired and I was in the office, there was 2 things that I could do that blew everybody else's mind that I worked with. We had a chat program, like where you could, you know, type and chat with people in the office, and they would come up and talk to me and I'd still be typing. And they're like, you can type without looking at the keyboard?
Talent, baby.
And I'm like, I grew up with AOL Instant Messenger. I learned how to type, you know?
Yes, we used to set away messages
Yeah,
that
like-
are now considered out of offices.
Yeah. And the other thing was like, they'd be like, hey, I need to do this in Excel. And I'm like, I think I know how to do it. Just let me finish this up. I'll be over in 5 minutes. So I'd literally go to Google and be like, how do I do this in Excel? And then I'd go over and be like, oh yeah, you just type this formula in and you should be good to go. And everybody was like, you're the Excel guru. Like, and I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm the Google guru.
That's
man.
me.
You know?
Give me a
Oh,
raise.
dude, I'm a Google guy.
I did a lot of work with spreadsheets, but what I was doing was, because I was looking at a lot of properties, I would literally like recreate a spreadsheet with multiple columns, multiple lines, and I would look at every property. And then I got to the point where I'm like, well, I just keep putting the same things in. If I just, instead of have, all of my items in rows and I fill them out here. What if I just change my rows to columns and then I can put every property on one row, right? And just do a formula that kind of populates everything through all the way down and it just calculates out automatically. So it was just more of a trial and error kind of thing. I didn't really have any sort of a guru or mentor or program that I did. I just kind of
It's wicked smart.
This was before like Bigger Pockets and all that stuff too. So there wasn't.
Yeah, Bigger Pockets was pretty new. I mean, they had
they
a
just
couple
come out?
tools,
Yeah.
but there wasn't like a lot of, where you could just go into their web form and fill it out and spit out a calculation.
And the reason I'm asking, because I'm curious, because this was 2016. You said you bought your fourth, right?
Yep.
So Ben and I bought our first one in 2013.
Okay.
We got lucky, right? Like it was a townhome,
Yep.
same type of thing. We had a renter that rented it for 2 years from us.
Yep.
We ended up selling it because the market, it was up in Cornelius, right?
Okay.
Where 131 Main Street Main, the restaurant.
Okay.
So pretty busy area, close to the lake. And we did, and this is bad to say, but we were also 23 at the time. We did zero analysis. We're just like, oh yeah, we'll cash flow on this. No analysis at all. And then I ended up running into a guy by the name of Mark. And I met Mark through my buddy Kevin, who's down in Florida now, but he was a contractor up here and he did an awesome job and he would fix stuff up for us. And he helped us up at that property. And he's like, you need to meet Mark. Mark wants to talk to you. Well, Mark invests in real estate.
Okay.
And so then Mark kind of was like, you need to do this differently. And part of the reason I wanted you to be the first guest is because, and I'll get to this piece, but he also started getting into mobile homes. But he was like, you need to make sure that you have this expense accounted for, this expense accounted for. And we got lucky with a very good renter. But funny story about our first investment property, and Ben will remember this. So we're sitting at Quicken Loans, which is now Rocket Mortgage, and we're in this little office on Park South over by the South Park Mall. And there's TVs in every corner. And we're sitting at our desk and we closed on our property 2 days ago. We had a lease signed already. So it was already leased out. We had insurance on the property. Well, we look up at the TV and there's breaking news and this row of townhomes is on fire.
Oh my God.
2 days after we closed. And I'm looking, I'm like, so I go running over to Ben's desk. I was like, is that our house? And he's like, holy crap. And then at the same time, our realtor's calling us and we're getting a call from the condo association. It was our house.
Oh my God.
But it wasn't actually ours. Thank God for firewalls.
Uh-huh.
So the guy next door, it was still coming out of 2008. So people were financially struggling still because this was like 2012-ish, I think.
Sure,
maybe
yeah.
13.
Yeah.
So the economy hadn't gone boom yet. So this guy next door was trying to sell a
Pun. Good
yeah,
one.
no pun intended. No pun intended. But this guy had a Harley and he was trying to sell his Harley and he couldn't get it sold, but he had insurance on it. So what he did was he hooked it up to a battery charger in his garage, got his kids, his wife, and the dog, and they went grocery shopping apparently.
Okay.
So he took his dog grocery shopping.
Oh yeah.
And then next thing you know, burnt his townhome down. The firewalls are the only thing that stopped ours from burning down, but the roof
Yeah, I bet.
was destroyed.
Yep.
It was a 6 to 8 month repair. So we had this property 6 to 8 months. Thank God we had insurance and renter's insurance, all that
Yep.
good stuff. Water damage, smoke damage. So everything ended up getting replaced
Okay.
in this property. And then we ended up getting lost income because we had the signed lease agreement. If we didn't, we were fooked.
Yeah.
It was bad. And I'm like, and that's our first property. I'm like, and at this time, people used to make fun of me. Like if I made a bet, I lost. Like that's just what would happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I really do have bad luck.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I might have bad luck. My townhome just burnt down, but we ended up renting it out, and it did really well. And we sold it, and then we invested in some other stuff, and now we're here and we have some other properties. And it was funny because I was talking to these first time investors. Well, it's their second property, and we just did so we're doing some commercial residential stuff now. Just in business name, like a business purpose type loans. Yep. And I was talking to these young investors, and they're best buds from college, kind of like Ben and I. We were actually college roommates. And they're getting into their first property in the South, and they had a 1031 exchange, and it's the first time doing this.
Okay.
And nothing bad happened, but like the inspection was slow and the appraiser canceled the day he was supposed to be out there. All the stuff that you don't like to deal with. And when it's a business purpose like commercial residential, it's not the same as just a residential mortgage.
Yeah.
We have less control because it's more businessy, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I wouldn't say less control. Commercial residential compared to residential is extremely regulated. Commercial residential is not.
Right.
So it's like living in the most tight regime country you can think of versus the Wild West.
Yeah.
So that's essentially for me what it feels like. And I love commercial residential. I do a ton of it now. But yeah, so I was explaining to them, I was like, guys, listen, you're investing in real estate. Things are going to happen.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to make money is if you push through these things and ignore all the noise. If there's somebody in your ear saying, hey, I told you it was a bad idea, they're wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. You need to keep pushing through. You might even run into a bad tenant at some point. But all this stuff happening, this was right around Christmas time this year. And they pushed through. They got the property. But I was like, and I almost told them my story. I was like, listen, the first time I bought a townhome, it burnt. Burnt.
You can't tell them that story until after they close. I mean, definitely can't tell that.
Right. 100%. Dude, it was a weird situation, but so yours, you had someone break a window.
Yeah.
And then not too bad. But then you got into your third property.
Yep.
Which remind me again what the third property was.
Third was another townhouse in Southwest Charlotte. Yep.
And then the fourth one.
Fourth was a single family over by the airport.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was the cash flow altogether on all four of those?
Probably when I quit my job, it was probably about $2,200 a month total.
What year was this?
2016.
2016, $2,200 a month. So that's before mass inflation.
Yep.
I'm guessing that it's a pretty major pay cut for you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, because I had that coming in anyway, right? So I was getting that and paid. So yeah, it was a huge pay cut.
Huge pay cut.
Yep.
You're going into real estate. You quit your job, which is another thing that's kind of similar to what I did at Rocket. Was they brought me in to have a meeting with me, and I was like a top producing underwriter at the time, and I was kind of just done being at a desk.
Yeah.
And I showed up at like 9:03. I'm still good friends with the guy. Well, I wouldn't say good friends, but we're associates. Like I get along with him. Great guy. I like him a lot. We'll golf with him every once in a while. But he brings me in. He's like, Nick, you showed up at 9:02 today. I was like, well, I just underwrote 100 loans last month. I said, I'm sorry, I'm 2 minutes late.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, da. I was like, listen, let me just stop you. I quit. It's funny because Joe out there, Joe's my younger brother. I didn't tell you that.
No.
So Joe ended up leading a team of like 140 people at Home Point for years. And Joe was coming in for a job interview the same day.
Oh, no.
I didn't think about that when this happened.
Hey, Joe.
So I'm walking out the door and Joe's coming in. I'm like, hey, just quit. And he's like, gee, thanks. And his interview.
Thanks for the heads up.
Thanks for the heads up, brother. And his interview is with the same guy. He didn't get the job.
I wonder why.
That boy Nick.
Yeah, so Joe tells that story every once in a while, but yeah, that was I was just annoyed that it was happening.
Yeah.
So I started my own business at that point, and you had more income than I did when I decided to do this because we had the one property. And I think it was cash flowing like $350 for us.
Sure. Yeah.
And I quit to go run Charlotte Brewery tours full time.
Okay.
So not even like real estate, just
the
a business. And we ended up selling the Charlotte nightlife a few years later, but terrible idea to do that, by the way. Like people, you should plan it out just a little bit.
Yeah.
I have this habit of diving head first, cracking my head open and learning from the crack and getting better. So you're cash flowing $2,200 a month.
Yep.
And you leave your engineering job, you take a major pay cut. Did you have savings saved up?
I had a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I had some investments at that point. Actually, I had some, savings from investments.
Nice.
Like stock market investments that I had sold.
Not Bitcoin though.
No, unfortunately not.
Back then,
I wish I did.
If you bought it back then, you probably wouldn't be sitting with us today.
Yeah, I'd be living
Be sitting on a beach.
Exactly, right? So, no, but I had a little bit of investments, but again, like I had the safety net where I went and stayed with my parents, right? So that was a huge advantage, or a huge, very lucky for that, right?
Awesome.
So, but yeah, I just kind of took a leap, and I was like, I'll figure it out. I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if I'm going to make my dad quit his job and flip houses with me full time or what's going to happen here.
Did you know you were going to flip at that point, or did you think you were going to keep doing rentals?
No, I wanted to do some flips. I mean, that's
Gotcha.
how I was going to that was my plan to generate, income,
Gotcha.
rentals. And if I would have, done this smarter, I would have actually bought more rentals before I left, because as soon as I left, I'm basically unbankable, right? Like I don't have income. So,
Oh yeah. So you had to go hard money.
yeah. So like, as soon as I left, I'm like, oh, well, it would have been smart if I would have bought myself a house to live in before I quit my job.
That's a pro tip.
Yeah.
That's a pro tip.
Yeah.
Buy your house first. Make sure you have enough income leaving if you need to get financed. Unless you have to buy cash to do the flips, you're going to need to get financed. And when you go self-employed, you can sometimes do it on 1 year, but 2 years. But they're going to look at your income. Now there's more products too than then. We didn't have bank statement loans back then. We didn't. That stuff had, 2008 rocked everybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we had Fannie and Freddie. You better have a 700 FICO. It was very tough to get a mortgage back then. Interest rates are higher now, but it's not as tough to get a mortgage.
Yeah. But with my W-2, it was a very well-paying job. So I had regular conventional loans that were in my name on these 4 rental properties. And I had even said to the mortgage broker I was using, I'm like, that's the limit, right? And he's like, well, no, you can still get more regular conventional loans in your name. It's actually 10. He's like, but a lot of companies will limit it to 4 just because of what happened in 2000.
They were being super conservative.
So he was like, yeah, you can still get more. And I wish I would have taken advantage of that, because, I'm buying properties that are $100,000, $150,000. And I've had 2 of them for, 4+ years at that point. So they're not really counting against me from a debt to income standpoint. So I had availability to buy more properties before I left. And I didn't even,
you didn't think about it.
I didn't even think about it until after I left. And I'm like, oh, I want to buy this rental property. And then I'm like, oh, but I can't get a mortgage for that rental property. Now what do I do?
What did you do?
So at that point, I started looking at kind of like you're talking about, commercial residential. There was a company based out of, I think they're based out of Greenville, called Lima 11 Capital.
Yeah, they are. We're partnering up with them.
Awesome. Yeah, they're great. I mean, that's who I did. That's who I've done my refinances with on a bunch of my properties.
Awesome.
So yeah, I basically started looking at them, and I didn't actually buy anything with them, but I've refinanced with them a couple times.
Cool.
One thing I did, you can portfolio a bunch of houses together, do one loan with them. I did that. Rates kept coming down. I refinanced again. Values went up, so it just kept pulling equity. And it gets to the point where after you own the property for a while, you stop looking at your cash on cash return, and I start looking at like my return on equity, right? So if that property's gone up in value $100,000, but I haven't refinanced, yes, I might have only put $20,000 down on it. But if I have $100,000 in equity sitting there, I can refinance that, pull 70,000 of that out and put it down on other houses, right? So kind of just almost using the equity that I built in one property as the down payment for another one, so.
That's almost similar to Burr method to an extent.
Yeah. But when you think about it, at the end of the day, if I put $20,000 down on a property when I bought it, and then 2-3 years later, I can refinance and pull, $30,000 or $40,000 of equity back out. Now my return on that property is infinite, because I've already pulled my down payment out, and I have an additional $20,000 to put down on the next property.
Right. And then you're stacking your cash flow even higher.
Yep.
And you were doing it at the perfect time as rates were going.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Do you still own those properties?
I sold. So I ended up buying 2 additional ones.
So you were up to 6 at this point.
I was up to 6. And then I got this great idea where I was going to diversify and open another business. So I sold 2 of them to fund the other business I was opening.
What was the business?
It's a hair salon.
Is it still open?
Somehow, yeah.
Is it doing? Did you at least buy the building that the hair salon is in?
No. I'm in a Harris Teeter shopping center. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Shout it out. Tell people where to get their hair done.
No. they do a great job. I will say that, but from a business standpoint, it's a bit of a mess. So I don't know how much longer it'll be there.
Gotcha. Okay. So you owned 6. You sold 2 to start another business. It's kind of like what we did with our investment property up in Cornelius. We sold it to start Charlotte Brewery Tours. And No issues as far as like the business relationship because Ben's
Sure,
still sitting out there, and my wife Liz was involved in that, and you met her when you first came in. She does all our compliance for us here now. We should have stayed in investment properties.
Oh, same, 100% agree.
Well, it's what we know, right?
Yeah, it's like stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, but the thing about people like yourself, myself, Mike, people who take leaps, sometimes we just keep leaping. And you know, every once in a while, if you leap too much, you might end up with a sprained ankle. So you had the 6 rental properties sold too, but you mentioned wanting to do flips.
Yeah.
Were you doing flips at this point?
A few, yeah. I'd done I was doing probably 2 or 3 a year, you know, smaller ones, you know, ones, obviously the best flips are the ones either do nothing or that you can do just easy stuff, paint, flooring, you know, countertops, stuff like that, you know, stuff that's easy. So I was doing probably 3 or 4 of those a year, just, you know, small ones where you make $20,000, $30,000 each on them.
Nice.
Nothing major.
But 4 a year, that's...
Yeah, it's, you know, it works out to be pretty good. And then I also started working with, you know, partnering up with people. So I started working with, and it's kind of funny, one of my business partners now, his name's Dave. People are like, how do you guys know each other? Are you friends from being kids? And I'm like, no, literally I was leaving a closing when I sold a house and there was a sign on the corner that said, I buy houses. And I called the phone number and he picked up and I was like, hey, I don't have a house to sell, but I'm looking to buy. And he was like, I don't ever get calls like, because I know what that sign is. That sign is, they're wholesalers, right? So it's a person that finds somebody that's looking to sell, they get them under contract and then they sell that contract to somebody else.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I don't have anything to sell. I'm looking to buy. And he's like, let's get together and, you know, get coffee and, you know, just bounce some ideas off each other. And we partnered up on a couple houses and, you know, we've just been buying rentals and he's actually who I invested mobile home parks with now too.
That's really cool.
So yeah, I mean, you know, 5 years later, you know, we're still working together and yeah.
It's crazy that in the real estate world, same with the mortgage world, if you reach out and ask people questions, how willing they are to help.
Oh, 100%.
Some people aren't, but the ones that are willing to help, those are typically the people that you see that are the most successful, in my opinion.
Sure.
And I think it's the whole abundance mindset that there's more than enough out there for all of us. And then the other piece too is it's like, it's very hard for what you do. It's very hard for somebody else to repeat that because you have a certain methodology of doing it. And everybody kind of does things different ways, right? Like, so you mentioned you're doing like quick flips. Well, the way I'm building wealth through real estate is I'm buying dilapidated properties, fixing them up, renting them out, then taking the cash out on that and doing it again.
Nice. Yep.
And I think the reason that I like to do that is because I like headaches and pain. I like self wounds, I guess. Yeah. No, but honestly, the reason that I'm doing it is because I realize that I could get more equity out of it quicker.
Yep.
Plus, I do this full time, so it's like their projects. Mm-hmm. Now, I would like to get to 5 of them by the end of the year, but but in mortgage, in real estate, and real estate especially, there's different ways to cut the apple to still be successful, which is very interesting, and I think that's why people are so willing to help each other. Like I'd mentioned, I had a guy named Mark who was a mentor to me. Now, so you and Dave worked together for 5 years. You called him because you saw the sign on the side of the road, which took initiative. And that's another pro tip. Take the initiative to go out and look and talk to people. And
I don't know what I was thinking that day. I was just like, I'm calling that sign.
So how many deals did you and Dave do together? Was it right away? Was it flips or what?
Yeah. So we did a couple flips together, like right off the bat. One of them took like 2 years. It was a big house in Rock Hill, actually.
Nice.
2,500 square feet. I mean, it was bad. We had to rebuild half the foundation of the house. Oh, wow. I mean, it's funny too, because we joke around about it. It's one of those, we actually didn't make money on that. We did not make money on that house. It
seems like a big project.
And I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, this house needs a bulldozer. And he's like, no, we could save it. And, looking back, he's like, yeah, that house needed a bulldozer. We should have just knocked it down and started over. So,
live and learn, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So, we did, we were doing, I kind of stopped doing the flips by myself, and him and we were doing probably 3 or 4 a year too.
Right.
Actually, I was probably doing 2 or 3 myself when I was doing them on my own. And then when I partnered up with him, we were doing like 3 or 4.
Nice.
And then, a couple rental properties we bought along the way. So, still doing that. We still have, him and I, and actually his brother works with us now too,
Nice.
Daniel. So the three of us, we have, I think 7 rental properties in the area, like 7 units. And then I have a couple properties with some other partners. And then, and then the mobile home parks. Yeah.
How many total do you have in just rental properties, not including mobile homes?
Not including mobile homes. I have 12 units with partners and 4 of my own still.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Nothing. So not like, I don't have like 1,000 doors like some people.
right.
you know?
Well, that's a whole separate business at that point.
Yeah.
It's a little great money, but you have to have a whole team of people.
Yep.
So do you manage each property on your own, or?
No, I've shifted more to property management just because the headaches, and I learned quickly that I have a few in Lancaster, which is, I live in Fort Mill, so it's about 45 minutes to an hour to get there. And my buddy who I partnered up with on those, he lives in Indian Land, and even for him, it's a half hour, 45 minutes. And we'd have a unit down there go vacant, and we put a lockbox on it, and we're like, so who's going to go down to show people the house in Lancaster today that want to go look at it? And we're both like, I don't want to go down there. So, very quickly realized that it's better to just pay the property manager, save yourself the headaches. And a lot of people were like, all they do is collect rent. Well, if you have a really nice property, maybe all they're doing is collecting rent, but they save you from, because when I managed myself, I was terrible about being a proactive manager. Like, I had people that he's still one of my tenants, lived in my townhouse for 9 years, and I never raised his rent because he didn't bother me. I'd never thought about it. He was month to month for 8 years, basically, because his lease ran up.
You left a little bit of money on the table there.
A lot of money. So that was the thing. When I finally said, I need to hire a property manager, my property manager was like, we're going to raise your rents, and that's going to just itself pay for us. That's more than going to pay for what we cost you. And I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? You're right. And then I didn't have to worry about when somebody moves out doing the leasing. I didn't have to worry about what happens if this tenant doesn't pay their rent, because they'd call me. All my tenants knew me. They'd call me and be like, oh, I'm going to be a few weeks late, or, oh, I'm going to be a month behind. And I'd be like, okay, no problem. Property manager, it's not their money. So they're like, nope, if you don't pay the rent, we got to either get you out or figure out what to do. So,
For the viewers, what do you think the magic number is of owning properties before you hire in a property management company?
1.
I had the property manager on the Cornelius property, and it was great.
Yeah, it's the convenience factor, and it also, I guess it also depends on what else you have going on. Like if you have the time, then you might not need it. But when you have other things going on and your properties fall by the wayside, that's really when you say, okay, I need to hire somebody. So less of a number of properties and more of a what's your availability, I guess.
I think personality too. Like, they would call you and you're a super nice guy. And you're
Sometimes.
like, well, you seem pretty nice to us. But when they said, hey, I'm going to be a month late, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, property managers, like you mentioned, they're going to be like, hell no. If you do that, we have to start the eviction process.
Exactly, yeah. And then if they get 3 months behind, I'm like, oh, well, now I should probably start the eviction process. Well, I'm already 3 months in the hole, right? So,
right.
If they start it right away.
100%. How'd you go about finding your property manager?
It's actually, so the when I was buying my rental properties, let me rephrase this. The real estate agency that I was using to buy my rental properties also has a property management division.
Nice.
And because I was remote, I would use them to find me a tenant, right? So I would use them to find a tenant every once in a while when I wasn't here. And then when I moved back to the area, I'm like, oh no, I'll get my own tenants. Well, I had one tenant that moved out, and after 2 months of not having a tenant in there, I said, you know what, maybe I should call my property management company again and see if I can get them to find a tenant for me.
Right.
And I guess the way that it used to work is they would charge 1 month's rent to get a tenant in place. And then they would charge 10% for property management. Well, I guess they changed the way that they operate, and they're like, we either charge 1 month's rent to get a tenant in place, or we charge 10% of the rents for the entire year. And
one or the other.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I can pay 1 month's rent for you to get me a tenant, or I could pay 120% of a month's rent for you to manage the property for the full year for me. And they were like, yeah. And I said, well, that's a no brainer. I'll give you the extra 20% to collect my rents and manage my tenant for a full year. You know?
Right.
So yeah. But then as I brought them more of my properties, they charged me less. So now I pay them 8%.
Right.
So what it would cost me to fill one unit now manages my property for the full year.
Wow.
So, because 8 times 12 is 96.
So if there's issues as far as toilet stops working, sinks working, faucets leaking, hole in the drywall, they take care of all that.
Yeah,
you have to pay for it. But.
Yeah, I pay for it, but she knows I like to do a lot of my own maintenance. Like some of the stuff I'll fix myself. So if something pops up, she'll send me an email and say, hey, this is what happened at, whichever house. Do you want to go take care of it, or do you want me to get one of our people to go take care of it? And a lot of times it comes down to my availability. I'm like, no, I got too much going on this week. Send somebody out there and take care of it. Or if I don't have anything going on, like I guess it was probably 6 months ago, went and changed a bathroom vanity out in Gastonia for one of my properties. Because I was like, I don't have a busy week. I'll just go take care of it, So yeah, just, it's nice because if I'm not available, I don't have to stress about trying to make the time to do it. But if I have the time, I'll go take care of it myself.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned mobile homes.
Yep.
So you said David, right? Your business partner?
Yeah.
You and David got into mobile homes. How do you go from investing in, units to mobile homes?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, we're looking at scale. So I guess it was the beginning of last year. I had done a couple of courses online about like small apartments because that's the direction I wanted to go. I wanted to go small apartments, like 5 to 50 unit. The premise of the course that I did was basically those are too small for institutional investors, but for whatever reason, your typical single family investor thinks that that's not something that I can handle. But the reality of it is those small apartments are easier to underwrite and to analyze.
Don't tell the institutions that.
Yeah. Well, they don't care about anything that small because it's too small for them, know? So, it's like at that point, you're just looking at numbers, like for your initial underwriting. You're not looking at how nice the carpet is or anything like that. You're looking at strictly their numbers, what their rents are, what their income is, what their expenses are. Right. And that's how you value it. And that's how a bank values a commercial property as well. They don't have to do a comparable sale appraisal like you do with a single family house or a 1 to 4 unit where they also figure out rents. It's strictly income versus expenses.
We're doing that right now. We have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 on commercial, and tier 1's like DSCR. Tier 2 is, bigger buildings going vertical, like building ground up on, or it could be even a single unit. Like say you build a house and you want to rent it out or sell it, like flip projects, renovation, things like that. And then tier 3, we're doing like a bank of money. So like if you see a land that you want to purchase, or you own land and you want to get it developed to a point to where you can rezone it and sell it to a national builder. So yeah, we're doing all of that and it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's actually easier than.
I agree. And because you're just looking at the numbers, you can go through properties a little quicker. Like if you were to have somebody come in that wanted to buy, like using a commercial residential loan, they wanted to buy a single family house as a rental. Right. When they get their appraisal done, they have to get their appraisal done. I think they do 3 different cost considerations. They do comparable sales, right, which is what you need for when you're buying a residential house.
100%.
You have to do a rental income analysis,
1007, and
you have to do a reconstruction cost. They give you that value as well, which is astronomical right now. Right. But a commercial property, like a multifamily property, they look a lot less at the comparable sales. They're looking at more just the income versus expenses.
100%.
So, and that was kind of circling back to how we got to mobile homes. But I wanted to do small apartments because that 5 to 50 or 10 to 50 range is, again, too small for institutional investors. But it's also a lot of mom and pop investors, like one owner as opposed to corporations. And a lot of them have owned them for so long that there's either very little debt or they're willing to work with you, right? So if they have very little debt or no debt, you're looking for a seller financing sort of deal on that. You could go to a bank and get a loan, but at the same time, with what interest rates are doing right now, if you can get favorable terms from a seller, maybe somebody who's owned it for 30 years or their family's owned it for a long time and they're looking to retire, well, they can sell or finance it. I'm not a tax person, but there's tax advantages to them by doing an installment sale.
This is a show for entertainment. We are not tax advisors.
None of this is financial advice. Yeah.
We are just giving suggestions that you probably shouldn't follow.
But, so there, if you can get favorable terms, lower interest rate than maybe you can get from a bank, a smaller down payment than you could possibly get from a bank, that seller is still getting a monthly income.
Right.
They might get, a bigger chunk of money up front, or, not a bigger chunk, a chunk of money up front and then monthly payments for 5 years, or if they want to carry it for 30, whatever they want to do. And you can work with them and come up with creative terms. And, it seems like a lot of those owners are open to things like that.
That's cool.
So yeah, but in analyzing these small apartments, what we were finding was that if we're looking at them from I call it a worst case scenario, the worst case scenario where we have to go to a bank and get a loan.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
With what interest rates are, you'd have to purchase it at a cap rate that's
right.
That's higher than what everything's selling for.
Right.
Right. Because when you look at, and a cap rate is just, basically the annual income over the purchase price.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So as your cap rate goes up, your income is going up. Right. So when you look at one of these properties and when your interest rate's like 8 or 9%, your cap rate has to be like 10 or 11%.
Right.
But with the popularity of larger apartment buildings and things like that, stuff in Charlotte's been selling for like a 4% cap rate and a 5% cap rate.
With bank money.
With institutional money.
Right.
Right. So for somebody like me to come in and say, hey, I want to buy your, 15 unit apartment building, but I need to buy it at a 10 cap rate. The seller's like, well, I could just list it and sell it at a 6. My value's almost double, what you're trying to offer me for this.
Right.
So, we realized that unless something happens with interest rates, it's not really feasible. So we just, we started looking at other asset classes, and, the next reasonable one was mobile home parks,
mm-hmm.
because, they do typically trade at a higher cap rate.
What's the average cap rate, would you say, for a mobile home park?
So it depends. If you find them listed, you can find them, and it's different too, because they value them a couple different ways. Brokers will try to sell them to you on a cap rate that's based on the overall income. They call it global cap rate of the homes and the land together. Typically, I don't
think you can do that with mobile home parks.
Banks don't like to do that. No. There's a couple that'll do it, but typically they want you to value the land and the homes separately.
Right.
Right. Because mobile homes are considered depreciating assets. Well, I guess everything's a depreciating asset, but
especially mobile homes.
Yeah. They tend to go down in value over time, as opposed to a home or an apartment building, which goes up in value over time.
I actually have an interesting story about a mobile home. We got an appraisal done, and the appraiser flat out said, this home will only last 15 more years.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, after 15 years, it's no longer a home.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit tougher.
Yeah. But yeah, so you can see brokers will sell some stuff they'll try to sell it at a 7 cap rate globally, or, and then you start looking at it, you're like, well, this is more like a 10. But you can find stuff for a 10 cap rate. Now we try to value just the land and then assign a value to the home separate from that. And the way that you value the land is typically there's 2 types of homes in a park. There's a tenant-owned home, which the person that lives there owns the home, and then they pay you rent for the lot. Or there's a park-owned home where they just pay you, let's say, $800 for the home and the land.
Right.
Right. So we'll look at it and we'll say, okay, in this market, the rent for a lot is typically $400, but it's all park-owned homes that are renting for $800. So we'll say, okay, let's value the land based on $400 a month for each lot. And then we'll value the homes based on $400 a month for that home. So total is $800, right? Mm-hmm. So you'll have less expenses on just the land than you will on maintaining the homes.
Right.
So, if you can get something that's all tenant owned, that's like the goal. And
so do you sell the ones that are not tenant owned?
Yeah. So there's a lot of people try to sell them all off to the current
And then
tenants
just lease the lot.
and just lease the lot. Yeah, past that maintenance cost, that insurance cost, that the tax on that personal property because
They call them pads, don't they?
yeah pads. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So you keep as many pads as you can, and you either sell the homes or you rent to own them to the tenants, just to relieve yourself of that burden. The only
You hold a note though when you rent to own, correct?
yeah. Well, so you don't really.
Because you could sell the note too if you wanted to.
You can sell the note. One of the caveats is why you don't actually sell it. You could, but we try not to. We do a rent to own, so there's not actually well, I hate to say it this way, but they don't gain equity as they're paying rent.
Right.
Right. They're on a lease. So, and we tier it to where like, if you've paid, your rent if it's a 5-year term that we got set up, if you've been paying and you want to say, hey, I want to pay this off, we're not going to say, oh, well, you owe us the full original purchase price, right? We'll tier it down to say, let's say we're going to sell you the house for $5,000 and over a 5-year term. And we're going to say, okay, after a year, we'll sell it to you for $4,000.
Okay.
But if you set it up where it's a note and they stop paying, it's a completely different process as opposed to just a regular eviction that you do on a rent to own, right? And on a rent to own, you do an eviction because they're still technically tenants.
So it's probably easier to do the eviction
Yes.
than
as
it is to
opposed
take the note back.
As opposed to, foreclose on the home,
Foreclose, yeah.
repossess the home. It's a completely,
So that's why you do the rent to own.
yeah, that's why you do rent to own.
So let me ask you a question on that. You go in and you have tenant owned that you're leasing the pad to or renting the pad to, and then you have park owned, and then I'm guessing the first thing you do is you figure out which ones are which, and you go to the ones that are park owned, and you're like, hey, listen, we will lease to own with you. What's the typical go through what that looks like from a real number standpoint so people have an idea.
Yeah, it depends on, each individual home. If it's a home that is in really good shape, I mean, there's some there's actually lenders that'll lend just on the homes.
Right.
And you can buy just a home if it's like a newer home. I mean, I've heard of new homes in parks single wide selling for like $90,000 just for the home. Now that's a situation where you actually get a lender involved and they buy the home. Some of these smaller parks where the home is in, not very good condition, needs work. I mean, we've given homes away, right? Like it could be anywhere on the spectrum.
You just don't want to deal with the work.
We're like, listen, for the maintenance that this home needs, you can have it. Just pay us the lot rent, right? Like we're interested in the lot rent, or it could be somewhere in the middle. Like, hey, $300 a month for this house for the next 3 years, and you take care of the maintenance, and rent the lot from us for whatever the lot rent is, but. If you pay the $300 a month for the next 3 years, then after that, you won't have to pay this $300 a month anymore. You just pay the lot rent.
Right.
So it really does vary based on, what kind of condition it's in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to say, but you go in some of these houses and you're like, I don't know how anybody lives here. Right. Like some of them are in really bad shape and there's people living there and you're like, take this one,
Right.
But,
yeah. No, trust me. I probably should have done that with our Kannapolis property. It was very similar. It's actually right next to a mobile home park.
Okay.
So, do you have a requirement of what type of condition they have to keep their property in if they're leasing the lot from you?
We do. And it's not only our requirement, it's an insurance requirement. So, our insurance company will require us to have skirting around the bottom of the mobile homes. And that's basically to ensure that animals don't get underneath. Cats are the biggest problem. They'll tear up your ductwork because they feel the heat or the air conditioner and they try to get into it. They have to have like steps with handrails. Those are required. We obviously don't want any broken windows. Those have to get fixed and siding has to be in place. Can't have exposed wood. So those are like minimum requirements and those don't necessarily come from us. They come from the insurance company, but we abide by them as well. It's hard with a tenant owned home though, to be like, because the insurance company's like, you got to make sure they fix it. And it's like, it's not our house.
Right.
And they're like, well, we're going to drop you from our insurance if you don't fix it. I'm like, but it's not my house,
Right.
So you get to the point where if they don't fix it, you have to impose fines for them not following the rules, or eventually you'll have to end up going and do the work yourself and then kind of bill them for it over time.
Do you evict anyone off the pad if they don't follow the rules or no?
Not really for not following the rules. It's more if, we impose fines and they don't pay the fines, then it becomes a non-payment issue.
So like the broken window, how much is that going to cost them if they don't fix it? What's the fine on that?
Like $30 to $50 a month.
Okay.
The window, if you go to a mobile home supply store, the window's probably a couple $100 at most, and it just unscrews from the outside. You screw the new one in and you're good to go.
And so if you have to fix it, you're doing, $200 to $300 for the window, and then whatever the labor cost is, and then you're building that into their rent for the next few months.
Yeah. A lot of times what we'll do when we do that, we've done it with skirting. Skirting's the big one because again, animals will tear it up. They'll try to get underneath, because it's warm underneath.
Oh, yeah,
in the winter,
especially in the wintertime.
Yeah. So what we'll do is, and a lot of times we'll reach out to the tenant and say, hey, we've given you a warning about fixing this. Is it an issue of you just don't want to do it or you can't afford to do it? And if they're like, well, we just can't afford to right now. So we'll come in and we'll say, all right, well, how about this? The skirting repair is going to be like $500. What if we just put an extra $50 on your rent for the next 10 months and then, we're good to go. And typically they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So it gives us the ability to kind of get everything nice and clean and looking, the way that the insurance company wants to look and the way that we want it to look. And it also takes that burden of them trying to come up with an extra $500 just to pay for that skirting, up front.
I'm sure that you want it to look nice as well because
Absolutely.
Other people are going to want to rent the pads
Yep.
from you. And yeah, so
it's mutually beneficial for us to do that.
So there's a stigma around mobile homes that, clientele is hard to deal with. Is that true?
Some, there's some that are difficult to deal with. Not everybody though, it's like everything. You can't judge a book by its cover. Some of the
Right.
people there are there and they're working and, they're doing the best they can. But some people there are just, they'll squat. They'll squat in the house and they won't ever leave. And like I said, you go in some of these houses and you're like, I can't believe somebody was living in here, so, and you don't realize it till you evict them and you go in and, it's.
What do you do at that point? So they're evicted. Now you have, and I'm guessing these are park-owned homes.
Yeah.
So they're evicted. Now you have these park-owned homes. It's nasty as all get out.
Mm-hmm.
You get a couple dumpsters, hire somebody, clean it out for you.
Yeah.
And then sell it?
As much bleach as you can imagine,
Oh, geez.
We had one that we evicted somebody out of, and I remember walking in the front door and walking to the back door, which was about 30 feet away, and I almost didn't make it out, almost threw up because it smelled so bad in there. They had dogs in there that they just kept locked in one of the bedrooms, and there was dog shit everywhere in the house. It was hard. Just walking through, I'm trying to, I think I took one picture. I was like, oh, I took the picture and just ran out the back door.
Is that the worst you've seen?
That's the worst I've seen, yeah.
So how do you get somebody to come work on that?
It's, there, a lot of times there'll be people that live in the park that are willing to work on it. Either they're looking for a little extra money or it's actually both. They're looking for a little extra money and they want the place where they live to be nice too. Right. So,
Right.
There's always those good tenants that want to help.
Jeez Louise, I think I would die if I went into that place.
Yeah, I don't know. They're like, they put masks on and, they get in and out as quickly as they can and load up the dumpster and get that thing out of there.
Oh yeah,
So.
get it out of there. Bleach it. Bleach everywhere.
Yeah,
Put a
yeah.
hazmat suit on.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
So what's the cash flow look like?
So it varies. It depends on your occupancy, right? So, and it depends on your financing as well, right? So, we are willing to take less cash flow if there's less money out of pocket, so our return's better. If we can work out a deal with a seller where the seller finances it, we're willing to pay a little bit more for the property than having to, obviously a lower down payment. We're willing to pay a little bit more than we would if we went to a bank to get financing because, again, we don't have the bank that has to underwrite it as well. It's just the seller. So, typically we'll want to see, I think we want to see at least $30 to $50 a pad for an operational stabilized park.
How many pads are there?
It varies. Our smallest park is 13 pads. Our biggest one is 73.
Nice.
So, it can, but there are bigger ones that, we've looked at ones that are 200, You know, there's some that are 1,000. I mean, there's some monster mobile home parks.
Right.
You know, but again, actually, when you get to those sizes, you start dealing with institutional investors again. There is institutional money in mobile home
Oh,
parks.
I'm sure there. If it's cash flowing, I'm sure
Yeah,
you got to fight BlackRock for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, we've looked at a couple of those, and I mean, it's like, you know, you're like, I can't imagine somebody would spend $20 million on a mobile home park.
It's crazy.
We actually looked at a portfolio in Lumberton, North Carolina. And I think it was a situation where they bought like every mobile home park in the town. They had like 15 mobile home parks in Lumberton, which is like a city of 100,000 people.
Wow.
And they owned like 700 pads in Lumberton, and they were trying to fill them up. And I'm like, is there that much demand? Like they brought in all brand new homes in every park, and we were like, we can't even. They're like, yeah, we want like 100 million for the portfolio, and I'm like, yeah, sorry, I don't have that. You know, like, I don't have
that, and I don't want to get it.
I don't have.
I'll write you a
any-
check.
Yeah,
Just so you know, if you wanted to get that, we do lend up to 100 million.
awesome.
So
All right, cool. Maybe I'll get them down to 90. And, you know,
I don't know if we lend. Work a deal, get them down to 90. We
Yeah,
got you. I can't imagine what your spreadsheet looks like on a mobile home park on cash flow. Is it? Because you mentioned you're great with spreadsheets. So did you Google the spreadsheet or?
So I've built my own, but there's a couple others that I've gotten from some other investors. And I look at these sheets and I'm like, wow, these are really awesome.
Yeah.
But, you know, like everybody's got kind of their own different ways to look at things. So the one, like I do like some of the other mobile home park analyzers that are out there. And those, unfortunately, we haven't come up, and I'm sure I could do it. I mean, it'd just be, you know, 1,000 columns wide.
Right.
But I haven't figured out a way to put them all, like multiple parks on one sheet. It's all like one sheet with multiple tabs for
Nice.
an individual park. Right. So I look at mine a little bit different than everybody else looks at theirs. Like a lot of people, what they do is you look at what's pro forma. So they look
Right.
at what the best case scenario is, what they think they're going to be doing at the end of the year. But the one complaint I have with most other spreadsheets is they'll say, okay, at the end of year one, we're going to be charging this rent for a lot and this rent for a home.
Mm-hmm.
But then they basically base all their analysis on that end of year one income as it was the entirety of the first year.
Which it's not.
It's not. Yeah. So the sheet that I built, I basically take where we are and where we're going to get to, and I just create a linear average of what it's going to be. Right. So
Right.
I don't say, okay, if we buy the park and the rent on a lot is $200, but by the end of the first year, we think it's going to be $300. I don't say, okay, first year rent is $300 a pad. I say it's $250.
Right.
Right. I average it
average
out.
it, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people look at it and they'll build these sheets and they're like, oh, we're going to make, 18% cash on cash the first year. And I look at the same thing and I'm like, you're going to make 12% cash on cash the first year, unless you're planning on going in day one and raising the rent, which you can do, but you got to give the tenant some sort of notice. You got to give them at least 60 days notice.
You also don't want that. You want goodwill with the tenant as well.
Yeah,
And I don't think going in day one and jacking the rent up is the best way to get goodwill.
Yeah, I mean, you can, you can do it, but you got to provide value as well,
Right.
right? You got, like, if you're going to raise the rent, there's got to be a reason, right?
Right.
So, like, one of the parks we bought, we went in and the owner was apparently super neglectful, a lot more than we thought. He'd owned it for 3 years and had never been there. So we bought it and it was awesome. He had all these like statements of everybody that had been paying. Get there and everybody's like, I haven't paid rent in 3 years. And we're like, oh, awesome. Okay, well now you actually have to pay rent. Sorry.
Hey, I'm Tom. You owe me rent. Please pay it. Oh, and if you can get the back rent as well, that'd
Yeah.
be great. Like, let's just. Do you want to average it out over the next 2 years? We can do that.
Yeah. No, but that's a case of, we went into that park and I mean, the roads are just like paved on one side, dirt on the other. It's a loop. And the paved road, I mean, the potholes in it they'd swallow a car, so we went in and we're like, hey, I know your rent was $165, but that's like unreasonably low for anywhere.
That's just for the pad. Though.
Just for the pad, yeah. We're like, we're going to be bumping rent up to, I think we bumped it to like $250. And then we're like 6 months from now, it's probably going to be $270, $275. Market in the area is like $400. So we're still below market, but we also have to, we're like, the reason we're doing is because we got to fix these roads. Like
Right,
these roads. And they're like, okay. They're like, that's fine. The last guy came in and said he was going to do the same thing, but just never fixed them. Like he said he was going to fix them, but just didn't. So, you know, we go out there and we're active and they see us and they're like, wait, they're like, we never even saw the other guy. He never came out here ever. We never met him. So, you know, going out right away definitely helps.
So Tom, I have a question on that. Do you guys have like a town hall meeting or do you go individual property?
It's funny when you go out there and they see somebody that they don't know, they're like, who is this? You know, because it's a pretty tight. I mean, even this park that I'm talking about, it's like 70 pads that, I mean, there's probably 30 of them that are vacant. So there's like 40 houses there and they're kind of tight knit. Like when they see somebody pull in, they're like, who is that? So when we go and there's 3 or 4 of us and we're walking around looking at things, people come out. They come out and they approach us. They're like, who are you? What are you doing here? And we're like, oh, we're the park owners. We're trying to figure out, you know, what projects we're going to do to make this place nicer. And they're like, awesome. We love it. They're like, that person over there does this every night. That person does like, I mean, they just start. We call them park narcs. We're like, all right, where's the park narc?
Get you a park narc.
Yeah.
They all have 2A radios too.
Yeah.
The owner has arrived.
That's a pro tip. Get a park narc.
Yeah, you're better off getting 2 because
2 park narcs.
One on the other side.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. Like the girl on this side's like, I won't even go on that side of the park. She's like, that side of the park, I think they're all drug dealers. And you go over there and they're like the nicest people you ever met. And they're like, it's crazy.
I think they're all drug dealers.
Yeah, and you go over there and they're all like, oh, hey, how you doing? And they're like, we love it here.
Maybe they're nice drug dealers.
Their yards are all nice.
Dude, I mean, the drama must be unbelievable.
Oh, so I'll tell you, we've
just opened this can of worms.
I love it.
So I turned 40 in December and my parents threw me a surprise party on December 30th. My birthday's on the 21st. They threw me a party on the 30th. So we're at my parents' house. Actually, my partners for the mobile home parks are at the party with us. And I get a phone call from our park narc.
She's our park narc.
She was at that point, she was our manager at the park. And I'm like, Ashley's calling me, or Amanda, her name's Amanda. I'm like, Amanda's calling me. I'm like, I wonder what's going on. It's like 8:00 on the 30th. So I think that was like a Saturday or a Friday. And I answer, I'm like, what's going on? She's like, there's a fire. There's a fire. And I'm like, what do you mean there's a fire? She's like, one of the houses on the other side of the park is on fire. I'm like, call the fire department. I'm like, I'm 4 hours away. I'm like, I don't know what
There's nothing I can do.
Send me a video.
Yeah. So
somebody grilling out.
I'm like, do you know what house it is, what unit it is? Because we don't own any homes in this community. It's all tenant owned. And she's like, I don't know. I can't get over there. So she's sending me pictures. She's calling me. And we're like trying to find out what happened. And it's funny too, because we like the septic guy that's out there. He also owns mobile home parks. And he basically was like, we had to have him come in and pump a few tanks out. And we're talking to him and he's like, I started a septic company because I own mobile home parks and I got sick of paying people to come pump my septics out. He's like, that's literally all I do is pump them out. I don't do any other septic work. And I was like, oh, okay. But he's also on the volunteer fire department. So I called him the next day and I'm like, hey, can you do some digging and see, you know, what was going on? Like if you can find out what happened. So the cops were there, the fire department was there, everybody in the park is there.
Happy 40th, Tom.
So yeah. So she's like, yeah, they were fighting. I don't know. And somebody heard them yell, watch this. And the next thing you knew, the home was on fire. So I'm like, all right, did somebody burn somebody else's house down? What's going on?
Molotov cocktail.
Like, yeah, and that's what we're thinking, and that's kind of the story that everybody in the park is telling us. Well, so Amanda talked to the police, and the police were like, no, he had a kerosene heater and tried to refill it while it was lit, and it just spread. So we don't know what the actual story is. And that's the same story that the volunteer fire department got. We don't know what the actual story is. People in the park are like, these two people were fighting and one person burned the other person's trailer down. But the official story is the guy was filling his own kerosene heater while it was lit and it just like exploded on him.
So what do you believe?
How do you believe anything?
Yeah, I think it was lightning. I have no idea. And that's the other thing too, is I kind of want to believe the tenants because they're like, yeah, we heard gunshots too. And I'm like, was it gunshots or were things just popping while it was, I don't know. There's So it's hard to know what to believe, and that's why I got to get two park narcs, so you get two sides of the story. Right?
You need surveillance. I mean, could you imagine that footage?
No.
I would watch it like 24/7, 365. You got to have
That's what
sound
you should
too.
do.
So that park actually has cameras that the old owner set up, but we don't know how to access them. We can't get them to work. They're like we have an office trailer there, but we can get in the trailer and we see the cameras and we see the whole setup, but we don't know how to view them or turn them on or turn them off or anything. Because they were asking us, they're like, "Do you have access to the cameras?" And I'm like, "Go in the trailer and see if you can figure out how to use it," because I have no idea. And they don't, it's just there. The cameras are up on light poles, and we gotta set new ones up for sure.
So you said Ashley.
Amanda.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Amanda's the park narc,
Yep.
and used to be the park manager.
Yeah.
You fired her?
No, it was just so she, and I don't blame her. She was getting a little. She has like a regular job too, right? She works
Right.
like a regular 9 to 5 job, and so when we took over, everybody had been paying either Cash App or Zelle or PayPal or money orders or cash, right? And they would mail it in. Well, we switched everybody to an electronic system where we take payments online, and they can also go to like Walgreens, CVS, and there's an app called Pay Near Me. So they scan the barcode. It tells them what they owe. Like it actually shows up on the register, and they pay CVS, right? And then that app pays us the rent. So it got to the point where everybody was trying to go pay Amanda, and she's like, "I can't take your payments. You have to pay either through the app or you have to go, use your barcode and pay at the store." But they would go show up at her job.
Oh boy.
And she's like, "I can't have these people coming to my job, telling me that they're trying to pay and they can't pay. Like I have a job. They can't." So we tried to set boundaries with the tenants. We're like, "Don't go to her work. Like she'll be available every weeknight from 6 to 7, or like Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8, PM. Go stop by her home and she'll take care of you." And like there's nobody would respect it. So it was one of those, and she's like, because she's getting bothered at all hours of the day. She's like, and typically the way we were paying her was we give her free rent.
Right.
And she's like, "Well, what are you paying me in rent? And I'm working 40 hours a week." Well, you shouldn't be working 40 hours a week. You should be working like 5 at most,
Right.
Like, people should not be bothering you all hours of the day. You have another job. We totally respect that. So with it just nobody respecting her time and her boundaries, it just made more sense to have a different property manager
That doesn't live there.
Yeah, take over. Yeah, so
Poor Amanda.
yeah, no, it's bad too. Because
Hopefully you weren't having her take cash. It was just the apps, right?
just the
because she would have probably been getting robbed. Too,
yeah,
on top
no,
of it.
that's one of the reasons too. You don't want cash because it's a liability. So
Right, 100%. So someone burnt another neighbor's house down, or lightning, or kerosene fire.
Yep.
They bothered Amanda at work. Where did Amanda work?
I think she worked worked for a vet. I think she was like a vet tech.
Cool.
So they're showing up at the vet office.
Yeah, they're showing up at the vet
trying to
office. Yeah.
God.
She's like, "Get out of here. Like, what are you guys doing?"
I don't have the money till here, guys.
These are my
It's
neighbors.
at home.
But it is a tight knit community, so they all kind of know each other. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that 4th of July was fun after the fire. No rockets going back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out this year because that was in December.
Yeah. But it's funny too, because like you go and especially that park, that one's in Kinston, North Carolina, and
I'm going.
we're
Sorry,
going.
I was telling them to switch the camera.
I was just zoned in on the park.
we went out there, and it's funny because like there's a few people that aren't in our system, and we're like,
Right.
we got to get them leases. So we run into one guy and we're like, "Hey, we don't have a lease on your home," and he's like, "I don't own the home. I rent it from somebody else," because we don't own any of the homes. So like people do that. They'll own the home, they'll rent it to somebody else, and they'll pay us the lot rent. So like I own the home, Nick rents it from me, you pay me rent, I pay the lot rent.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this guy's paying somebody else to rent the home. We don't have a lease on that lot. So we're like, "We're not getting any rent for your lot." And he's like, "I'm paying my rent and they're not paying you their rent." And we're like, "Yeah. So can you give us your landlord's information?" "I don't know. I don't have it." I'm like, "Wait a minute. You just told me that you're renting this house from somebody, and you're telling me that you're paying them, but they're not paying us. So like we might have to evict them / you from this lot. but you don't have their information. He's like, no, they just come over and collect the rent once a month. And
Sounds like you need a partner.
I'm like, so you don't know who you're renting the house from? No. I'm like,
I don't even understand how you keep up with all that. That's crazy.
it's hard. I mean, and that's why a lot of it, some of it falls by the wayside, and you try to keep on top of it as best you can, but it's you got to be there as much as possible. And I mean, I wish I could be there more. It's just a matter of trying to find the time to get out there. But
do you think you'll hire somebody full time to manage all your parks?
Maybe not one individual person or one individual company. Probably just different local. Whoever's local to the area is probably the best bet.
And then put like a system in place, like, hey, this person paid, this didn't, and that way every month.
Yeah, yep. So
that's interesting. Did you ask him what day he comes by to collect it?
I'm like, you don't know their name? No. I'm like,
so he's paying somebody?
Yeah,
and doesn't know?
Yeah. Well,
I don't think
he says
he's paying.
Yeah, he says he doesn't know, and that's the other thing. Yeah, is he actually paying that person that he doesn't know?
Yeah, I don't think so.
So
if you just there was a lot there. That's great stories. Great for podcast. Well, one of the questions, so Ben prepped on you and he wanted me to ask mobile home questions.
Oh boy.
Wait, I didn't get prepped. Nobody prepped me.
No, Ben prepped me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, Ben
Sorry.
Ben prepped me
bad,
with some questions. So what we have been doing is we've been going basically off the cuff here.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this question. I think this is a great follow-up question to what we just talked about. And shout out to Ben. I know you're watching out in the main room. What aspects of mobile homes do you believe are overlooked by the majority of people?
What aspects of mobile homes are, I think maybe your casual investor is going to look just at the cash flow and think, oh, this is great. So I think the headaches involved are what's probably overlooked by most people. That's from the investor standpoint. But the other thing that's overlooked is, yes, mobile homes are a depreciating asset, but if they're kept well and updated, they can long outlive their quote unquote useful life.
Right. Oh, for sure.
So yeah, it's just a matter of maintenance. Now, the other thing that's overlooked is, again, not financial advice, tax benefits of a mobile home park. Right. So and you can do cost segregation with any investment property, but when you get to stuff that's bigger, like apartment complexes and mobile home parks, it's more I wouldn't say advantageous, but more.
There's more.
Yeah, there's more cost segregation that can come into play, right? So
that's huge.
With bonus depreciation, I mean, and mobile home parks have a ton of value in cost segregation and bonus depreciation. Like last year, when bonus depreciation was 80%. We were seeing 60 to 70% of purchase price in year one depreciation.
That's absolutely
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if everybody knows how cost segregation works, but basically because it's a commercial asset, if you straight line depreciate it, they just take the total purchase less the land and depreciate over 39 or 39 and a half year schedule. Mm-hmm. But with cost segregation, they break up the different components like your septic tanks and your water lines and your sewer lines, and they give 5-year lifespan to some of it, 15-year to some, and then 39 to other things. So with bonus depreciation, your 5 and your 15-year items, they were allowing you to depreciate whatever percentage it was. So like if say we buy a park for $100,000 and our 5-year and 15-year items break out to be 500 or 50,000 of that 100,000, then when it was 80% last year, we could take 40,000 of that 50 and depreciate it the first year.
Oh, wow.
That was in those two. So 2022 was 100%. This year's 80%. Or sorry, last year was 80. This year's 60.
Do you do your own taxes?
No.
You know way more about it than I do, and I have a CPA, and he explains to me, and like you're making my head hurt. But that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, it's like when we, if we're getting 60 to 70% of the purchase in depreciation, like if and we haven't done this. We've done a couple of things with partners, but if you set this up, like if I have a partner that comes in and he's a financial partner and he brings let's just say we're buying $1 million park and he brings in 250,000 of an investment. And let's just say we're going to give him 50% of that park, right?
Right.
So if we can get a 60% of our purchase price and depreciation year one, well, okay, he brought in $250,000 cash. We bought it for $1 million. He's a 50% owner. If we can get 60% of that purchase price and depreciation, we get $600,000 in depreciation year one. And because he's a 50% owner, he gets $300,000 of that depreciation.
Wow.
So if he brings in $250,000 and he's got a $250,000 tax burden that's related to real estate, then he basically saves that off of his income.
This is
right?
This is a great pitch for would-be investors.
Yeah.
So tell them where to find you.
You can find me. I know that my Facebook and Instagram are on there, but the easiest place to find me is tomsbizcard.com. TOMSBIZCARD.com.
Tom's a great guy. You'd love to invest with him. I have some more questions for you.
Absolutely.
So the tax purpose is huge. That's something we were talking to our CPA about, and he's like, 2024, you guys are looking up. You might want to buy a building or something. Maybe we'll be the guy who comes in and helps. Yeah. Only if we can put like live PD cams in all the parks and turn it into a reality show as well.
It would be probably a great reality
show. It would be like
show.
the Barstool Sports of mobile home parks.
Dude, and I'm getting a shirt, Park Narc.
Oh, yeah.
I love that saying, Park Narc.
I love it.
I'm going to get Park Narc. Get you too. Get you too. How many do you own? How many parks do you own?
So there's a few of us that are partnered together, Dave, Daniel, and myself. And then we partner with another guy, Tim, who's out of Charleston. And then we have a couple other partners who run parks with us. We have 7 right now. We have 4 down in Georgia, 2 in eastern North Carolina, and 1 up towards the mountains in North Carolina.
You're getting so big, they might call you the institution.
That's
awesome,
wish,
though.
Man. Yeah.
So now, for people watching, 7 parks, you said 4 partners, including yourself, total.
Yeah.
And then you have how many investment properties?
I have 12 with partners. Well, 12 doors. So a couple of them are duplexes. And then I have 4 personally.
So 16. How many pads on the 7?
143.
Total.
Yeah. But we got about 60 vacant right now. So that's one of the things is when you're looking at these parks, we typically try to buy, now we're kind of shifting because we got enough projects, but if you try to buy with value add opportunities where either rents are below market or there's vacant pads that you can bring homes in and, increase your cash flow, that's your biggest opportunity. The one that we bought kind of in the mountains, it's in Spruce Pine, North Carolina. That's more of a stable operating, well-oiled machine kind of park. So a little below market rents, we're going up on those, but you're going to make your biggest returns in the projects, right? The things that people don't want.
Right.
If you're willing to do stuff that other people don't want to do, that's your best opportunity.
What would you say a vacancy rate average is?
So let's see, I think we got 60 vacancies on 143. So what's that? That's like 42% ish.
Right now, but you're going to fill those. So when it becomes a well-oiled machine, what do you think the vacancy rate is?
So it should be, it depends. If you got park-owned homes, you'll have higher vacancy. Tenant-owned homes, you'll have less because if they own the home, they're less likely to move out. Either they got to sell that home to somebody else or they got to move it. And the cost to move a home is at least $5,000. So it's not very feasible to, like if your rent goes up $100 a month, it's not like you're going to take your trailer and move to the park next door. That's $50 a month cheaper because it costs you 100 months. It's the cost of it. It doesn't make sense to do it. So, we'll probably see, I'd say probably 10% vacancy would be, what we'd expect across the board.
And you just started buying parks this year.
Yeah. 2023.
So within the last 12 months though.
Yep.
So a couple of things I've learned when I was doing some mobile home park research and not for myself, just I want to hear the stories. So I needed to know the questions to ask or how to I wanted to sound smart in our conversation. But so from a real estate investing standpoint, the number one search on how to make money was how do I make money with mobile home parks in 2023? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So it's something that people are looking at a lot more of. And when you were talking about your cap rate
Yep.
and banks and so on and so forth, what I learned was that owners of mobile home parks, especially the smaller ones, not the like 200 plus unit one or pads, but they're more willing to sell or finance, which you get the higher cap rate on.
Yep.
You mentioned when you're looking at a property, just a door to, single family or duplex, whatever, to rent out. When you first started, you were looking at 15% cash on cash.
Yeah.
What is your cash on cash you're looking for in a mobile home park?
So it'll depend too. If we're looking at something that we're buying without other financial partners, like if we're buying it and we can get like 100% seller financing, we're looking at, obviously if it's 100% seller financing, then we don't have any cash in it. So cash on cash.
So you want, and you mentioned earlier, you want the least amount of cash out of pocket as you possibly can get.
So ideally infinite cash flow, but that's not always the case. If we're looking at something where we bring in a partner or if we invest our own money, we want to see our investors get a minimum of 10% cash on cash return year one. And typically what we're doing is like, if they're bringing the cash, we say, okay, you're going to own 50%, we're going to own 50%. And they're not always the same, it's just we work it out so that they're making we try to get them to be making at least 10% cash on cash year one.
Okay.
Rents go up over the years, their cash on cash increases and their equity goes up because as the income goes up, the value of the park goes up.
Right.
So we look at everything. We plan on like a 5-year exit. Whether or not we exit is, kind of up in the air. But we typically look for, if we project a 5-year sale,
right,
we're trying to get our investor 2.5 to 3 times their initial investment back.
Okay.
Right. So
when you say exit, in the world that I'm dealing with, a lot of times you have somebody like yourself who's looking for an investor. They get the investor to come in, and then when they say exit, they're saying, I'm going to pay the investor off to exit and I'm going to hang on to the asset. Is that what you're talking about?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you could do it. Yeah. You can either sell it outright or like you're saying, you can pay the investor back their return based on the overall value of the park, that what the fair market value is at that point and retain the park itself. Or if that investor wants to stay in, and you do a refinance, you pay them back whatever their percentage of equity is, right? And that money. So they may get all of their money back. They may get all of their money plus some more back. They might get a little less than their initial investment. It just depends on what the value is at that point. But yeah, I mean, the goal is to get the investor back their money as quickly as possible. I'm a firm believer, if I'm a passive investor and I've put money into something and I can retain the equity and the passive income over time, I'd rather do that than have to get my money back. And then obviously, I mean, I'm looking for if I'm that investor looking for a 1031, a way to kind of defer those taxes. So yeah, I mean, if I was the investor, I'd want to stay in as long as possible. Our goal really isn't necessarily to buy and then sell within 3 to 5 years. We'd like to hold on to them long term for a cash flow perspective. But we always try to plan for like a 5-year exit.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Both for ourselves and the investors.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think I missed about your investment, your mobile home parks? Because I was just scrolling through all these quote unquote pre-planned questions that Benny thought I needed, and we nailed it just having our conversation. Outside that one question, we also got that cool story about park narcs. Amanda, somebody burning down a mobile home park, or a mobile home in a park, gunshots going off maybe, or kerosene exploding. Who knows? We have to make it more exciting for the viewers. Yeah. Gunshots going off. You've been absolutely awesome. I'm super excited.
I appreciate
it. First guest on the Lone Guys podcast about building wealth through real estate.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to tell people?
Keep investing in real estate. I mean, like I said, whenever I try to veer outside of my real estate lane, that's when I get myself in trouble.
Oh,
so,
me too.
It's one of those things where it's funny. I told somebody, I'm like, just stay in your lane. And they're like, but I want to learn something new. I'm like, that's fine. You can learn something new. But when you learn something new, just execute that one thing at a high level. When you try to go off and do, maybe I shouldn't say this, but when you try to half-ass like 17 different things.
Agreed with you 100%.
Nothing, you end up with limited success. So if you can focus on one thing and do that one thing better than anybody else, do that.
I 1,000% agree with you. Tom, thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
To everybody who watched, thank you. Go ahead and bang that red subscribe button, turn on notifications, follow Tom on his social media. You got his contact information if you want to invest. He's somebody that I personally would invest with, just because great guy. Great guy. Like, can't say enough about him.
Thank you.
Yeah, super easy to work with. And I've worked with you on real estate transactions as well. But yeah, so everyone go ahead, follow us on MBI Financial Group across everything. This is the Loan Guys podcast, building wealth through real estate. Bang the red subscribe button, turn on the notifications. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. We love you. Bye.